So I think one thing that a lot of us are curious about before we get into any business things is you moved to Puerto Rico a little while ago. What's that like? Tell
Yeah.
us what's going on there.
Okay. Well, it's not official yet, but it's gonna be more than likely. I just got to get all the paperwork done, so I have attorneys work around that. But yeah, it's
Okay.
good. It's I don't know. Well, I don't know if you guys can see, but yeah, you can't see. It's too bright. But
So are
outside the
you in like
windows.
are you in a city? Are you like in the middle of nowhere? Where
So
are
I first went to San Juan. San Juan is kind of the main hub on the
you? Okay.
island, and then right now I'm in Ricon, which is on the west side of the island, which is like kind of wilderness and like hilltops, but it's really pretty. So right now I'm on the top of the mountain, and I have
Okay.
it's like one of the highest houses on the mountain, and then it like overlooks the ocean and kind of the city.
Awesome.
So yeah, so I'll probably be in San Juan when I do the permanent move. But yeah, it's similar to Miami. It's just less nice because like some of the buildings are older and stuff like that. But overall, like I like it here. Yeah.
Now, of all the places you could have gone in the world, why Puerto Rico?
Uh, well, I came here to see if I could live here. Um, and then there's a tax benefit.
Okay.
But after this, I, I'll probably go to Colombia, or I'm actually going to want to try to travel to Europe. I think they're opening back up, right? So it was just the easiest place to go first, and I wanted to see if I was going to live here. So now that I've been here for a little bit, once I leave, I'll probably head either South America or I'll just head over east.
So for the rest
So
of this interview, should you answer me my in Spanish to prove that you are
definitely not fluent yet.
are you
Not fluent.
actually speaking Spanish when you go out into
Yeah,
town or whatever? Okay.
yeah. Puerto Rico's nice, so it's like Mexico, so they kind of know both. So even if they don't know a lot of English, you can get around. But Colombia, for example, like it's all Spanish or they don't know what you're saying. So I could get away with it a little bit, but I know enough to get around. And I'm still learning, but I know enough to have like a normal conversation, like, hey, I need this, I need that, I want this, I want that. Do you have that? Stuff like that. I think it just gets hard when you don't know any of that. It's not very fun because you're basically just like Google translating.
Mm.
But yeah, I've been doing Spanish classes for a while. It's just it takes a little longer when you're not like 100% in a Spanish country all the time. But I think if I live here, I'll pick it up way faster because everyone like the language here is Spanish. So
Now you're going to live there or are you going to go to Europe? I guess I got confused what you said.
well, so I'm gonna be here. So the rule is I have to be here 4 to 6 months. So 4 months of the year I could be here, and then 2 months international, or I can do 6 months here, and then I can do the rest of the time in the
Oh.
U.S. So I'll probably what I'm gonna end up doing is 4 months here, two international, six in the U.S. So like
Okay.
Miami, something like that. I don't mind it here though. So it's weird because I would rather be in Miami, but I don't mind it here at all. I like it here. It's similar to Miami. It's just like more like I would just say it's a little more run down, but it's similar weather, similar vibe. Like it's got the water, so
Do you know
it
anyone in Puerto
works.
Rico?
Do what? Do I know anyone?
Yeah.
I think I know some people who are here. I don't know them personally,
Okay.
but I think there's a little crew of entrepreneurs down here. Yeah,
Cool. And now
yeah.
you have a big team. Is it different trying to run your business from Puerto Rico than in Miami or no different?
No, I mean I think it's okay with the time zones. I think if like if I went to Europe or something,
Mm.
that's a harder of a trip per se, just because the time zones will change dramatically. But here it's the same. I don't really feel that different. I actually have more time to work. There's like less stuff to do here versus Miami. So like
Ah.
I actually work more.
Do they have like a
Uh,
nice gym for you to go to? The stuff you enjoyed in Miami?
it's like 20 minutes away.
Okay.
So in San Juan, like everything's right there. So you can think of San Juan as like Miami, and then I'm in kind of the outskirts right now. So Racon is on the very west of the island. It's like the very tip of the island, and there's not a lot of stuff out here. So this morning I had to drive 20 minutes to a gym, but it was a good gym. Yeah, it was a good gym.
Now, are we going
So
to get to see a reality show of like Tanner living in Puerto Rico and interacting with people in Puerto Rico?
I don't know. I guess it depends if Tom's around my video guy.
Video guy.
But there it's like I like it here, but it's not the same scene as Miami. So I don't think I'll go out quite as much. But I like it. And like, to me, it's, if I have to live here for 4 years and I get to save a bunch of money, I think that's it's not a bad sentence, you know. It's nice here.
All right, well, let's talk about some business stuff. So
Okay.
2021, new year. Now, you've had a business for several years now and have had to adapt and pivot in terms of marketing your business. What do you
Yeah.
think is like the hottest or most effective way to market kind of an online service business in 2021? What's your prediction?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I mean, even us, Molly, I mean, you know, we're kind of pivoting some of the stuff we do right now on the front end. But I think the easiest way to answer that question is outbound, you know.
Okay.
So I mean, we've always done outbound. I just didn't really
And what does that
consider
mean for
that.
people who are maybe newer to this
Yeah,
world?
so outbound basically means you're going to the lead or the buyer and you're following up with them. So, you know, most people, when they think of online business, they're hoping that, hey, the person comes through, they watch the webinar, they sign up, I close, super easy. But as the market gets more crowded, people are getting more used to internet marketers. Really, what you see a lot of the bigger companies doing is they're doing some type of outbound. So outbound could be emails, sending texts, uh, dialing their phone number, messaging them in Messenger. It's outbound activities. Like, you're reaching out to them versus they're coming into you.
Okay.
And so I just think it's more important now because there's so much competition. There's so many people. So I usually say something like, you have to scale what's unscalable, right? You have to be able to do things that other people are not willing to do. So it makes you stand out and beat the competition.
So if you, this is kind of my next question. If you were to, let's say, hypothetically, start over with a completely new business, no team, you had no money, you're just kind of, but you know everything that you know now, what would you do to build the business?
Uh, I don't know if I would want to do it again. No, but I would do a lot of the same things. I think the only thing different I would do is the outbound calls. I think I would have done those sooner. So when I started, you know me, I just pushed everyone to Messenger and I messaged them. That works, and we still do it, obviously. But I think if I had done outbound and added that in as another component, but I would do most of the same stuff. For me, it's just how many leads can I get for at the cheapest cost, and then how many platforms can we reach out to them on until it's kind of like buy or die, right? They either work with us or they don't. Um, but most of the stuff I would do the same. You know, I think the mistakes I made in the beginning, obviously I wouldn't have to go through those. But once I kind of quote unquote figured it out, I would do most of the things the same. I would just add in more outbound things. So more calls, more texts, more emails. We do all those things, but I think the difference is the calls. So if you look across the board at a lot of the 8-figure companies in the space, I think we're the only one who actually just did ManyChat primarily. I think all the other ones are doing some type of outbound dialing, which is
Okay.
part of why we're going to add that in. It works.
So
So
for somebody newer who isn't in a position to like have a team yet,
yeah,
is the idea that they just have to take more assertive action and contact people directly and not wait for them to come to them?
yeah, I think I think the average person, when they think about online business, they get in the mindset that, like, oh, it's going to be like it's going to be easy money, and I don't have to work a lot. Now, granted, I would say, you know, the less money you make, the less you have to work. So if you only want to make 20K versus like 200K a month, yeah, like, you obviously aren't going to have as many leads, therefore it won't take as long. But at the end of the day, the follow-up is king, in my opinion. So if you get the same amount of leads as someone else, but that person is calling them, texting them, emailing them, messaging them, and you're not, they're going to beat you. It's just numbers. So I think for somebody who's brand new, yeah, that's the biggest mistake, is they're not assertive, and they just think that the leads will magically sign up, and they forget that there's so much competition and so much ads in our faces on a daily basis. I mean, we probably see dozens of ads a day and we don't even realize it anymore,
Right.
you know, because we see so many. So I think that's just the reality, is like, to get people's attention, you have to do something that's like gets their attention. So text, you're calling them, you're blowing up their inbox where they're noticing, like, oh, okay, because they're not just going to notice on their own, I don't think.
And why do you think a lot of entrepreneurs are not assertive and they want it to be automated?
I think it's uncomfortable, right? So, even recently, like with the new outbound dialing system that we're testing out, it's somewhat uncomfortable because like I'm calling someone and I'm like thinking, oh, well, they may be annoyed. It kind of feels like door-to-door sales again a little bit.
Oh,
Like I'm knocking on their door and they're just like, what do you want? It's like, geez, dude, like what's wrong with your day? So I think it's some of the nervousness, or maybe you call that anxiety of what are people going to think? Like, am I going to be bothering them and stuff? But it really just goes back to a lot of times, one, we're not really bothering them that much. And then two, I think the important thing is you just kind of get over it, because the way I viewed business was like you either do that and you're successful, or you don't and you won't be. So to me, it makes all the sense in the world. Like you have to be assertive and you have to be willing to do that. If you're not, like someone else will and they'll beat you. That's how it always works. So
so do you think learning to take things not personally, or learning to not take things personally, would be a valuable skill in outbound?
well, yeah. I mean, I don't see everything anymore, but I mean, it's impossible to please everyone. I mean, if it's not this person, will be that person. So I think as long as you're just trying to work hard and you ignore it, for me, it doesn't, I'm just trying to help. Right. If it comes from a place, and that's the other thing too, is like, it's easier to say when you have more money. Cause when I was starting and I wasn't doing that well, um, I was so desperate to make sales that I would get like anxious, like, oh, dude, this guy said no, like, and I'd start freaking out. But as I got more leads and the business grew, it gets easier because like one, you're not dependent on it. So two, when you get to the call, you actually close more. That's the thing. Like the less you care, the more you close, because people feel that. And then they're just like, well, you're just trying to help. And you're like, yeah, like, so I don't really care. I'm just trying to help. This is my advice, and take it or leave it. And so when people feel that and they're not feeling like tons of pressure, I think that helps most sales, especially like sophisticated buyers. Like, cause a guy like me at this point, I'm only going to buy what I want to buy. Right? I'm not going to get pushed into like a one call, like drop the price close. Right.
Right.
So, um, yeah, I think that's important. Yeah. Super important.
So it's interesting to be able to talk to you at this stage, knowing that you are a while ago at, a beginning stage of like 10, 20K a month. How do you think differently about problems? You just mentioned one, that you don't care as much about the sale, so that actually makes you easier to close. But what are some ways that you kind of look at business differently than you did back then?
Uh, well, I mean, one thing is, it's really about the team performing rather than me.
Okay.
So even when I test new stuff, I mean, it's not realistic for me to go in and try to do it myself. So I think a lot of my thoughts are going to like, what can I do to get the team to perform better? What assets can I give them so they can do their job better? You know, uh, like how can I show up better so that they want to work here? It just becomes more about the team, because like you're just not able to do everything. So even right now, like we're testing some new stuff. I've been doing that this week, kind of grinding a little bit, but it's not sustainable. Like I can't, because I have to shoot the ads. I have to like do the content still. I'm having to manage the team. So like even today I'm slammed. Like because we're testing something new. So I have to get it set, but I ultimately need other people to take over so I can get my time back so I can do other stuff for the business. So I think the difference is just realizing that as it grows, you being inside the business deters the business from growing, because it doesn't matter how many calls I take or how many people I message or what I do. It's not as good as if I have 5 people who are trained how to do it and they do that as a full-time job, right? It just doesn't work. So I think a lot more about how can I get the team to perform and what systems do I need to put in place and the overall strategy of the business. So instead of implementing it, I'm thinking of the strategy and then trying to get others to implement it for me.
Got it. I guess I'm a little spoiled because I get to see behind the scenes a lot of the stuff that you deal with, and it's a lot. Like
Or the good and bad, everyone. She sees the bad stuff too,
it's
unfortunately.
stressful. So my question is, should everybody want to have $1 million a month business? Like,
No, no, no. I think, well, and so it's funny, Molly, like in the next few months, I want to roll out some other offers. Like I'd love to roll out like a sales rep offer where we train a sales rep and we place them, and like maybe even the same thing with setters, right? You could call it, I guess like a messenger, a setter. I guess it's similar, right? It's kind of a similar thing. Um, but yeah, I think some people, the best thing they could do is work for a business owner, right? Work for a business owner, but do a high paying position. So high paying positions are going to be anything that brings in exact ROI. So whether that's sales or that's maybe media buying or some copywriters, some people will pay a tremendous amount for a good copywriter, full-time copywriter. I think for most people that makes the most sense because all you have to do is focus on that one task and a lot of the stress goes away. Like I've had days, I mean, where I just get kind of basically to the point where my stress is so high that I just dip, even though I'm not supposed to. And then like 48 hours pass and I feel way better. Cause for like 2 days, I'm just like, I don't care what's happening, whatever, I'm not dealing with it. And so my stress goes down for a few days. I'm like, oh, it's kind of nice. But I don't know. My personality is like I enjoy growth ultimately. So if I get complacent for too long or I'm not pushing myself, it's just not who I am. But I think for the average person, I don't think most people really want $1 million a month. I think they say that, but I think most people really just want like 10 to 20K a month with less stress. I think that would be fine for most people. So I think for the average person, it makes more sense for them to either have a very small business, like small, or just work for someone and play that role. Because you know, like Benson, my brother, he's in client fulfillment. He could make more as a closer, but he don't want to deal with it. He doesn't want the stress, right? And then you got my other brother who loves money, so he's a closer. So I think it depends on people's personalities, but running a business and being a part of a business is very different. And I've always told myself, like, worst case, if something happens, I can always just go close for someone. And when I say that, I'm like, man, that'd be so easy. It doesn't feel stressful to me personally. Anyways, but hope that answers the question.
I think it's funny that you think Benson has no stress, but that's funny.
Well, I think it's relative. I think it's relative. So like, I think when you're on a commission basis, for
Right.
example,
True.
there's pressure to perform. Benson knows worse, like he's getting paid no matter what type deal. So yeah, I'm sure he does, but I think you get what I'm saying. Like it
I
just in
do.
terms of like commission versus salary.
So knowing what you know about having $1 million a month business, like, are you
Mhm.
surprised about what it's really like? Did you have a different expectation when you were back at 10K a month about what it would feel like to have this big business?
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, I mean, I think I've learned the last 6 months, like it doesn't matter how much money you make, it's never gonna feel different. I think the goals are nice, but I feel the same at a million a month as I did at 10. I still have the same problems, if not more. So I think I honestly what I enjoy, if you like break everything away, I enjoy the growth aspect. So the amount of revenue we do is just it's the game. It's like the number represents the growth. I don't really care. Like at the end of the day, do I really care if we make like we have a bad month and do 8, or we have a great month and we do 1.5, or like not really per se. It's just the fact of the growth, right? Because
Mm.
at the end of the day, if we're making a lot of profit and the money comes in and people are happy, it's like, okay, it doesn't matter. It's just how fast we'll hit the goal. Um, but I think I enjoy the growth, and then I do enjoy the fact that like I've been able to help people on my team in terms of giving them a job where they can come and hopefully, stick around and get paid, right? Because especially like my two brothers, like it feels good to me that basically that's my way of like, one, they're helping me, so it's a win, and then two, it's like a way I can support them. Because I have a big family, and both my brothers, didn't none of us finished school. So, Gentry specifically, when he came here, he was in a bad spot because, he's young. So he was like 21, 22. He has type 1 diabetes. He just had a kid. He wasn't done with college. So he's like, well, do I go to college and like we basically scrape by on like freaking food stamps or something, or do I not go to school and work, but he's gonna have a terrible job because he didn't know marketing. So that's when he got in. I started teaching him sales, and he's put in a lot of work and he's gotten really really good. But he makes way more. There's no way he'd make what he makes now if he hadn't gotten the opportunity, right? So he's a smart kid. He can go on and do other things, but it's stuff like that feels good to me. So
Cool. And he's so good that he's actually teaching our clients how to sell.
yeah, he's done good, and he's been doing a few years, and he's taking courses, and he's got more coaching, and he's good. So yeah, he's a top dog now.
So I see that you're still the face of marketing for Elite CEOs, and you have a nice shirt on today. Thank you for getting dressed up.
Yeah, it's somewhat clean.
So do you think that as your offer shifts and you're kind of working with a different type of market than you were when you were working with Fit Pros, that it matters what you wear in your marketing?
Well, I know what you're gonna say.
I'm not answering the questions.
Well, I know what you're gonna say. Yeah, I mean, I mean, it's not gonna hurt. I think it's like pizza. It's like some people like jalapenos, some don't. So you're kind of safer to just do cheese, right? So I think that's like with clothes. Yeah, I think it's with clothes. I just personally get annoyed because sometimes the way I think is I don't care about any of that stuff. I'm just a very what can you benefit me when it comes to business when I'm looking for a coach. So sometimes if I get a comment about what I'm wearing, it's like, dude, who cares? Like, what does it matter? So that's just me. But yeah, it's funny that some of that stuff matters to people. But yeah, I mean, if you're just looking at the situation, yeah, I think anytime you can like look nicer, look better. I mean, some people won't care, but then some people will, right? It's kind of like cussing, right? But some people like no one's going to be mad if you don't cuss, but some people might be mad if you do cuss. So I think it's hard to say. Some people will say you just got to do you, and then some people don't. I guess for me, when it comes to clothes, I don't really care. So I don't mind wearing something because I don't care either way. But yeah, I mean, I think it won't hurt you. We'll say that it's not going to hurt you to look more presentable.
So. I'm glad this is recorded, so we can.
Yeah, of course. You're gonna say this and dialogue it and send me the frame anytime I don't wear nice shirts.
So one last question. Have you
Sure.
read any good books lately that you'd recommend the rest of us read?
Yeah. I mean, I read a lot of books. Sometimes I can't remember all the titles because I'm going through them so fast. I read Triggered. I really like that. It has some team building stuff in there. It also had some personal goal setting. Like one of the tips in there, it was interesting. Like when we set goals, sometimes we say like how we word it. You'll have to just read the book. I'm not going to phrase it right, but it talks about kind of how to word your goals a little better. So instead of saying, did I do my best today? It's more like, did I try to do my best today or something like that? And you're more ranking your effort versus like, did you do it or did you not? I like that book. It has some team building stuff in it. There's another book I'm reading. I can't remember the title, but it's about narcissistic personalities. It's just interesting. I just wanted to read it because sometimes my ex-girlfriends get mad at me and say that, and so I was like, maybe this is me. But no, it's just more of an interesting read. It's by a doctor, and she's professional in narcissism or narcissist or whatever. And so she has a book, and it was more just like personal, interesting read, just to kind of like see about that.
Do you feel like you can relate to the book?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's levels of it too. I think all of us maybe have a little bit of that in us, and it also is based on the definition. I mean, some people's definition I don't think it's accurate, and then compared to hers, but it's just interesting to kind of read it because, ultimately I want to be a good person, and so anytime I think I may have an issue or I'm doing something, I like to like read on it or like research more to see like, am I like, because sometimes it'll say stuff and you're like, oh, I am doing that or I'm not doing that. But it's more of a personal read, but I can't remember the name of that book, but I'm sure if you type in on Amazon, it'll pop up.
We can look it up for people and put it in the comments.
There you go. There you go.
All right, there was one last question that somebody put into the Facebook group, which is kind of what's the biggest challenge that like you're working on for your business that's going to probably take you most of this year, and kind of what's your plan to tackle it?
Yeah, I just think it's getting more production out of ads. I don't know if it's going to take me till the end of the year,
I guess
but
more
I
like
think,
it's not just a quick thing that you're like going to fix tomorrow. It's a big.
yeah, I think it's just we're putting more outbound systems in place right now.
Okay.
So, we have like all the messenger and the many chat and stuff like that, but I think it's like putting in more outbound systems. So like the dialing, and we're adding in some new CRMs and stuff, and then we have to get the team trained into that. So, when you have a team and you start new processes, it's not as easy as just like a solopreneur and you just start doing it. You have to have SOPs and get things in place. So it's going to take a little time, I'm sure, to dial in, and then we have to slowly ramp the ads behind it. But I think it's going to be really profitable for us. So
Awesome. Cool.
yeah,
Well, thank you very much.
yeah, Molly, you're awesome. What a great interview.
Yeah.
I didn't even have to think.
Cool. That was the idea. I didn't want you to prepare too much because then you might have these like canned responses. So.
Yes, this is true. This is true. No, thanks for doing this for me. And guys, Molly's awesome. She's part of my coaching team, so she was great.
All right, if you guys have any more questions about this, drop us something in the comments. And if you stopped by to watch and thought this was helpful, just drop us some love to help more people see the post.
All
Thanks.
right. See you soon,
All right,
guys.
see you guys.